Welcome, everyone, to the Wizard Factory Live. My name is Logan Hart, and this channel is all about giving you the spiritual tools and mindsets to bring about a more empowered life. If that sounds good to you, like the video, subscribe, and today we're going to be talking about continuing the End of All Evil reading and commentary. This will be part 4. So first off, if you're new to this video, to this series, check out the description below. There's a link for a playlist that has all the videos starting from the beginning. I do recommend going back and checking that out so that you get a full context of what we're getting into. But this is an amazing, amazing book. Very powerful, very simple and easy to grasp and understand, yet so profoundly important. This information applies to every single living being on the planet, and regarding the most important topic of all, freedom, because without freedom, well, what is the point of even living if you can't completely have free choice to go after your soul desire, to have this human experience, unhindered, uninhibited, other than, of course, hindered, or I should say limited to where your freedom ends, where another's begins, not violating the rights of anyone else. If you're not doing that, then that action is a right that you have and that you should be free to take. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right. Welcome in, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. If you go ahead and say hi, make sure you can hear me. Let me know in the comments if you can hear me. If you're excited about getting into more freedom-oriented content, just a couple of things to go over before we start on continuing the reading. I just want to mention that I will be appearing on Mark Passio's live show next weekend, Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which I'm very excited about. We're going to be talking about truth, one of my favorite subjects ever, and one that I believe that I can bring a lot of value and insight to as well. And incidentally, I will be dropping an interview that I recorded with Mark on the previous Saturday. So next Saturday, the day before I'll be on Mark's show, I'm dropping an episode of the podcast with an interview with Mark that here on this channel. So I'm super excited about that. If you're listening on Facebook, definitely do check out my channel, The Wizard Factory, over on YouTube. And I'm also on other social media platforms, Facebook and Twitter as well, and Instagram. But I'm live on those previous platforms. But if you just go to my bio, you can find all the links. Just click on my main link tree, and all the Wizard Factory stuff, and as well as my own personal pages will be inside there. So do check that out. I post a lot of different types of contents on all of those platforms, so there's something for everyone. Also, one last thing before we begin, live show is coming soon to this channel as well. I'll be starting my own weekly live show featuring a good arrangement of different segments. We're going to have some topical discussion. I'm going to bring on guests, as well as covering news, current events, not only actual real news, but also looking at fake bullshit mainstream media news and picking that apart and kind of analyzing the mind control nonsense going on there. Some astrology weather reports, so to speak, by a guest, a very talented astrologer, as well as Q&A and some other things. So I'm super excited about that. If you're excited about that, hit the like button, subscribe, make sure you turn on notifications. That way you'll get a notification every time I go live, and you can tune in, you can engage with the chat, and can have a conversation. It's going to be a good time. All right, so without any more chit chat, let's get into this. So, continuing on, End of All Evil, Part 4. Again, this book is all about the nature of freedom and how that connects to your value, your self-worth, and what you tolerate as far as infringement in your own life. So it's extremely important. And I think let's just check the chat real quick before we get into it. Misty, hello Misty, welcome. Well, I'm glad you're here for the time being, and I'm excited about this. Let's get into it. All right, so we'll just pick up right where we left off last time, starting with a section called Control of Speech. Speech is controlled by culture because speech advances wisdom. Human communication accelerates growth and learning on an exponential scale. People learn principles on their own through experimentation with their environment, but they learn far quicker when they are able to communicate their thoughts through speech. Speech is the single most powerful tool of humanity. Through it, children and adults alike accelerate knowledge in anything they desire to learn. It's extremely important. I mean, think about if you were trying to, say, learn how to fly a plane. Well, you could certainly get in a plane and try to learn through experimentation, right? But not only would that take you a lot longer to figure things out, all the different instruments and different ways of taking off and landing and all this kind of stuff, it would be actually quite dangerous in many cases. Versus if you were allowed access to instructors, to books, to actual learning from other people and their experiences, what a difference that makes. Well, that applies to anything, including and especially when it comes to spiritual wisdom, because I'd say, most things when it comes to the human experience has kind of already been mapped out for the most part for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. I mean, the ancients had a very deep and robust understanding of spiritual things, and think about how many humans have lived since then and have written books and created. Nowadays, information is more available than ever with presentations, YouTube videos. I mean, you're right here learning from a book, from a video at the same time, from another person somewhere out here in the world. And, and this is exactly why they go to such trouble. The powers that should not be, go to so much trouble to hinder that free speech, to that sharing and spreading of information. So culture cannot afford the rapid spread of human understanding. Should people learn their own worth and potential, they would never submit to the artificial authorities placed over them. Culture is about control. Cultures are designed to protect the powerful, to protect those in authority. Its job is to make sure that speech cannot flow freely. To accomplish this, it establishes a pattern of subversion of thought and propriety of speech. Authority is unquestionable. Culture first labels the questioning of authority as immoral. The first rule of law, absolute respect for law enforcement, character in politics, and the nobility of king are all examples of cultural subversion of thought. Culture cannot allow people to question their allegiance to a specific law or a specific king or a specific system of authority. Instead, it teaches that these things are above question. It is never permitted to question the king, dictator, or democracy. In every culture ever devised, authority is supreme over humanity. And I would say it's worth to note that this begins with parenting, with your childhood experience as a child who's under the so-called authority of your parents, depending on how authoritarian their parenting style is. How many parents out there, or how many children have heard from their parents, why? Well, why? Because I said so, which that's so harmful. it's lazy, but it's actually harmful because what that's telling that child without saying these exact words is, fuck your understanding, that doesn't matter. All you need to know is I said it and you need to obey. And that is setting the precedent from that early age, going on all the way through their lifespan until the government takes over the parental role as a proxy parent. It's exactly how this works psychologically, and you don't question it. It's just an extension of that. So the highest extreme of questioning authority is discussing the assassination of authorities. Ooh, spicy. Even to print a line of text such as this will bring shivers to those who live under any culture. And of course, it's damn sure going to violate the Facebook community standards. This is the grip that culture has upon speech. Questioning whether authority is right or wrong is not allowed. The system is above you. You will not fight back. Though law considers itself moral for defending itself with violence, it will teach you that you are immoral for even thinking about defending yourself against it. Lesser taboos on questioning authority exist in varying form in the cultures of history. In modern times, this is most obvious in the shame brought upon anyone who questions the respectability of police, public education teachers, or other public employees. Their work is considered to be above the work of everyone else. Their actions in their jobs are beyond reproach because they are agents of authority. It is sometimes called respect for the office or position. Questioning their right to interfere with your life will bring you the scorn of culture. This is the control of speech. I'm getting a vision of Eric Cartman in full police garb saying, "Respect my authority." Right? Because that's exactly, the attitude, especially of law enforcement. That's, they have this entitlement, this expectation that people should just lay down and do whatever they say simply because they have a shiny piece of metal on their chest. Further examples exist in the belief that paying taxes is noble. Not one person would pay them if they didn't have to. Not one person pays $1 more than is demanded of them under threat of imprisonment. And yet throughout culture you hear people speak of the nobility of paying taxes. Taxpayer is the title given by those seeking legitimacy in political arguments. Culture teaches that good people are those who allow themselves to be extorted and controlled without thinking. Obedience to arbitrary law under the rule of law is labeled character. The more destructive a law is to humanity, the more praise of nobility culture will give to them who obey it. If authority is not questioned, if it is accepted as the proper ruler over man, slavery is the result. Germans failed to question the culture imposed upon them by the National Socialist Party. Their servitude to Hitler and his war machine were the result. I'm censoring myself so that I don't get pee-pee slapped by the internet gods. Billions failed to question the culture of brotherhood championed by communism. Totalitarian slavery and the deaths of 100 million people was the result. Large or small, when you yield your mind to culture, it will make a tool of you for its own purpose. It begins when you limit your speech out of fear of culture. You become a cog in the machine where your individuality is trumped by the so-called greater good. Let's check, see what's happening in the comments real quick. All right, nothing going on. Diversion of propriety. The next step in the cultural manipulation of speech is the creation of propriety and politeness. These define the artificial enemies of society that culture would have you focus on instead of authority. They are designed arbitrarily to divert attention from the evil of authority. What would the world be like if you were free to open your mouth? The minds of people are tethered under ideas called cultural propriety, political correctness, and politeness. Political correctness is engineered slavery. Right. And it's done through culture, not through any law. It's implied, right? They don't even need to actually threaten you with some kind of violent action, because it's all about shame and ostracization, vilification, right? And most people are so concerned with fitting in, for being accepted, that this is enough to make them conform, and then to perpetuate that abuse to anyone else who doesn't subjugate themselves the way they have done to themselves. It focuses attention on controlling the speech of people in such a way that they believe the enemy of people is impoliteness. They are taught to believe that they are naturally racist, sexist, and bigots. Only when culture keeps a tight control on speech are people safe from their own demons. Culture teaches the limited value of people. Coarseness of language is the shameful speaking of words or concepts outside the propriety of culture. While there's nothing evil in a word, and languages are reinvented and molded every day, culture would have us believe that the words we use are where evil lives, instead of the crushing of the human spirit employed by authority. A curse is a wish of harm upon a person. Swearing is an oath of action. Yet both of these things have been perverted so as to teach you that speech is what is evil, and not the destruction of freedom that evil people employ. Every time you find an element of speech that is culturally unacceptable to speak, you will find a scapegoat. The specific instance is irrelevant. Culture always creates propriety to hide tyranny. In the beginning of the National Socialist movement of Germany, culture was engineered to make defending a Jew unseemly. It was likewise made it impolite to challenge those who condemn Jews. This pattern is found in every culture ever created. Nazi culture was not after the control of the Jews, it was after control of the Germans. Exactly. It's externalizing some threat, some kind of boogeyman, to get people to give up their personal freedoms in order for safety and to remain under the nice, warm, safety blanket of authority. Right? Better the devil you know. Choice. In order to free yourself from the slavery of speech control, you must understand the principle of personal offense. If you are offended by a word or sentence, then you have chosen anger and hurt for yourself. Culture would have you believe that it has been forced upon you, but this is not true. This is so important because it all comes back to personal responsibility. You're responsible for how you react and how you choose to feel about things. You know, by being offended at everything, you're giving your power away constantly, and in that personal responsibility. Culture would have you believe that evil is found in the discussion of ideas or the passing of intentional or unintentional insults. It would have you believe that certain words or allusions are where evil is to be found within society. If evil can create the enemy of speech, it can convince you to yield its control. This is the design and purpose of culture. Though people always feel entirely justified in taking offense at speech, it is nonetheless their full choice. They have the freedom to feel anything they want when they hear the mind of another person. Yet the solution offered by culture is to force speech into a manner conducive to culture's taste. Once you believe that the control of speech is noble, you will not wonder at why it is improper to question authority. That is a profound statement right there. How's everyone doing? Are we still are you still with me? Leave me some love in the comments. Let me know you're appreciating this. Hit the like button to tell the algorithms that you love freedom and that you don't like when speech is suppressed. Crushing the human spirit. While arbitrary culture is found amongst adults everywhere on earth, it is most easily viewed amongst children. Culture creates ideas of style compulsion, body image compulsion, and action compulsion. To prefer pink over blue is a personal preference. To wear blue because you fear wearing pink is the destruction brought by arbitrary culture. Cultures limit the choices available to people by creating arbitrary rules for your life and enforcing them with peer pressure. Crushing the spirit of people allows culture to gain their obedience. When people fear standing tall because they believe they are not sufficiently attractive, wealthy, or educated, culture is crushing their spirit by teaching them that they have limited worth. People who do not know their own value are easy to control. The pressures applied amongst children are a paradigm of the culture of more powerful evil. Those children who are the most adept at understanding how to conform to cultural norms and apply the strictest enforcement against everyone else are the ones who gain social power. This is a type and a shadow of the culture of nations and kings. A model citizen of culture is one who patterns themselves precisely to the ideals of culture. In premise, this means style, speech, education, and economics. In reality, this means obedience. Culture teaches people to idolize the perfect citizen. It does so because it desires your obedience as well. These people are rewarded by society for being easily molded by culture. The powers of authority and compulsion in all walks of life will always reward the model citizens with tokens of nobility and will always punish those who fail to meet the standards of servitude with humiliation and ridicule. Such is the creation of a culture. Such is the making of slaves. This breakdown of the human spirit eventually forces everyone to conform. Very few will even think of fighting the power structure. Almost everyone accepts authority. Arrogance versus conceit. Culture teaches that arrogance is an unwarranted valuation of self. You are a being of unlimited value. Culture is lying to you. Arrogance is condemned by culture because culture does not want people to understand how much they are worth. It purposely confounds the meanings of arrogance and conceit. Conceit is believing that you are more valuable than others. All people have infinite value. To be conceited is to degrade the value of those around you. Authority is the ultimate conceit. It lays people low, lest they believe that it is they and not law which has value. Arrogance is an understanding of your own worth. Culture condemns it in order to suggest that you are not really of sufficient value to do, say, or accomplish things that you desire. Arrogance offends others because they have been taught by their culture their entire lives that they have little or no value. They are hurt by the misunderstanding that arrogant people are better than they are. They are taught that arrogance is conceit. If people were not so easily swayed by the doctrines of culture, they would recognize that all people have equal value. When they see the arrogance of a person who has faith in themselves above that of their own, they would rejoice. If an arrogant person has great value, then so do they. Culture condemns arrogance in order to crush the spirit of faith. Without culture, people would allow themselves to revel in the inspiration that arrogant people provide. The arrogance to believe that we can fly, cure disease, and accomplish wonders. The arrogance to suggest that you can govern yourself. Enthusiasm and excitement. Enthusiasm for life is frequently ridiculed by culture. Those who are excited by the wonder and beauty of our world are in danger of understanding how much they are worth. This is not something that culture can allow. Excitement and enthusiasm are allowed only in limited and predefined forms. Every culture is different, but they all provide acceptable directions and outlets for excitement. These outlets divert the arrogant expression of enthusiasm so that others will not be inspired. Culture dismisses achievement as impossible for the average person. It teaches that most people can expect only limited success in their life. It teaches people to accept that dreams are unreachable. Without exception, the reason that dreams are so hard to reach is because of culture. Laws, control, and the crushing of the human spirit limit our ability to achieve. And of course, bringing it all back to the principle of mentalism, if that's what you believe, then that is going to be so. That is going to be the case in your own life, because you'll never even dare to act in a way that conflicts with that belief, that you might actually achieve something great, that you can actually have a profound and powerful impact, whether positive or negative. Most people simply accept this meaningless existence as it is at face value, and they work out their years in a factory or a bank or whatever it is, and that's just the end of it, because it has to start in the mind. And that's why I believe this book is so important, because this is going to help people actually realize their worth and shift that mindset, and then only then can they start actually acting as a free person and taking back their physical slavery once they have freed themselves from mental slavery. Juliet says, this book changed my life. Case in point right there. That is amazing to hear. I'd love for you to expand on that, Juliet, in the comments of what ways did it specifically affect you, and what were those benefits that you received? Now, I would say I kind of found this book later on in my journey, so I largely understood much of this already. But to each their own, and that's not a judgment by any means, but just simply stating that, it's all about timing, of course. And even so, this book, even though I understood a lot of it already, I think just the simplicity of it, for me, it is still so profound and still kind of helps you get to a root level of just understanding these concepts in a very, very simple way without overcomplicating stuff. That's what I think is most notable, most extraordinary about this book, is not only its profound importance, but its simplicity and ease of understanding. All right. Only human. Continuing on here. Culture has many variations of the phrase only human in every language. The phrase implies the ultimately limited value of people. The phrase is a lie. People have an unlimited capacity for intelligence. Things in the realm of the supernatural in ancient times are commonplace today. Principles that are amazingly complex become simple to intelligent beings as they are understood. Just like I was talking about this book. You can make these concepts very complicated, but you can also make them very simple as well. With freedom, the more you grow in learning, the more wisdom opens your mind to the purity of our reality. Cultures frequently teach that intelligence is hereditary, in conjunction with the notion that the powerful are more intelligent. This teaching is designed to imply that those in authority rightfully belong there. Yeah, right? Like, what's that saying? Leave it up to better men. Like, leave it up to the suits in Washington, right? Because they're the ones that are qualified to be ruling our lives, not ourselves. Of course not. They're far more qualified and educated. It is designed to teach that the intelligence of people is limited by the physical construction of their brains. Those not in authority are obviously not qualified to rule themselves. Culture needs people to accept limitation in order to swallow obedience. Man. So powerful. I love it. Glorifying of historic evils. Contemporary culture has a tendency to romanticize the evils of history. Genocidal warlords, such as Alexander, are given the title Great. Royal masters are bestowed with the honor of having been a good king. Communism, slavery, is venerated under the pretense that Joseph Stalin was the reason the system failed. The murders of law enforcement are painted white under the banner of defending the rule of law. Bloodbaths are idealized in the loyalty of armies. Culture would have us ignore the nature of history. It would have us believe that they are fantasies and stories, instead of the struggle of humanity against evil. Billions have lost their lives struggling against tyranny. The lesson of history is not the honor of slaves or the good of a system or the nobility of a king. It is the nature of evil that we must learn. Do not let culture cloud your knowledge of history by glorifying tyranny. The clouding of tyranny is found in every culture on earth today and obscures the same tyranny found in the past. Those who facilitated tyranny served as the enablers of authority. I'm just doing my job. We've heard this many, many times. Culture will not question what the job was. Culture will not allow you to believe that people have any responsibility to disobey the evil of authority. Nazis, communists, and warlords alike. Culture teaches us that the average butcher of history was just doing his job. Culture glorifies the evils of history and teaches that today's blind obedience to authority is nobility. The same blinding of the mind used by the cultures of the past is used by culture today. How correct law pretends itself to be is irrelevant. In order to enforce authority, you must destroy liberty. Obedience. Obedience to authority is the only objective of culture. It has 1,000 facets and 1,000,000 lies, but its design is always obedience. Chivalry was the code of honor created by royalty in the Middle Ages. This honor consisted of blind adoration of knights and noblemen. Peasants and serfs were taught that those who ruled over them and enforced the law of the king were always respectable and moral. The objective was the obedience of human beings to authority. The teaching of chivalry was that the knights of law enforcement had more value than everyone else. Patriotism is the code of honor created by nations in modern times. This honor consists of total allegiance to whomever controls the nation at the moment. Patriotism offers no choice. You cannot choose which nation to support. You're a slave by birth. You cannot refuse obedience. All law has total claim to you. Patriotism teaches that the nation is glorious and strong, and that people have value only in as much as they bow to it. The rule of law is the code of honor created by democracy. It teaches that honor is found in obedience to the law. This code teaches you that you cannot examine what the law says or who wrote it or why. The rule of law demands total obedience. Law is a weapon, and obedience is its design. The rule of law equates criminality with morality. The rule of law teaches that law has more value than people. All cultures call disobedience treason and scare people with ideas of treachery against what is right and proper. Treason is the premise that it is wrong to disobey the interests of authority. The truth is that it is wrong to compel others to action against their will. Since authority is always a creature of force, the claims of law are immoral and irrelevant. There is no such thing as treason. Food for thought. Slaves as enforcers. Those who are under the limitation of culture will enforce culture's doctrines upon others. Culture teaches that morality is found in obedience, and so those who believe that authority is rightfully exercised over people will demand that their friends and neighbors behave according to culture's will. This is the treachery of culture. It convinces people that slavery is morality. It desires only obedience, and people return it in droves. It convinces people that the destruction of freedom is morality. It pretends that evil is good and that good is evil. All who would speak against authority in the defense of freedom are condemned. At its strongest form, culture is able to convince its people to become soldiers and murder, plunder, and conquer new peoples. It has happened in every empire. It has happened in every kingdom and nation, from Nazi warlords to barbarian hordes, and from lynch mobs to law enforcement. Authority is expanded and retained by violence. Those who participate in furthering the goals of evil are given the titles of bravery and honor by culture. Symbols of authority. Culture seeks to enforce authority by impressing upon the minds of people that they are inferior to law. When people believe that they are worth less than law, they will believe it is their rightful place to obey. The symbols that authority uses to create the illusion that people have limited worth are very similar throughout history. The robes of modern judges compare to the robes of royalty. The wigs of late European politics compared to the crowns of royalty. The uniforms of law enforcement and the armor of knights. Captain, general, senator, magistrate, sheriff, prince, lord. Titles, clothings, and badges have been used in every culture in history to create the illusion of authority. Culture focuses the mind on symbols such as honor, loyalty, devotion, and duty. Some such symbols are not new. It is easy for most people to recognize the foolishness of loyalty to king, dictator, or communism. However, people still fall to modern symbols such as law, democracy, and patriotism. If the objective of a symbol is obedience, it is evil. Police officers carry badges to show that they are duly authorized enforcers of the law. They enforce the law upon you, but you did not authorize them. This is the illusion of authority. Culture hides tyranny behind the trappings of meaningless symbolism. It would have you believe that law is authorized to reign over you however it pleases. It hides the fact that only you can give that permission. Instead, it presumes permission by birthright or by the geometry of your location relative to its borders. It is an illusion. Should law truly be the authorized agent of defense or production, it would have to receive the permission of every single person it claims to represent. It would have to allow every person to extricate themselves from that authority if law failed to meet its obligation. Law never seeks permission and never will. It does not represent you, it represents evil. Powerful stuff. So, that is where I will stop for today in this reading. If you're enjoying this content, please let me know in the comments. The engagement helps more people see the video, as well as liking the video down below. So if you care about freedom, if you care about truth, and you want more people to wake up, because the ignorance of others are enslaving you and I. So this is why I'm here, trying to spread this message to help other people at least have the opportunity to hear this information. Now, what they do with that, that's up to them. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to do my part in the fighting the fight of freedom and doing the great work. So that's going to wrap up today's session. Again, I'm super excited about the live show coming weekly to the Wizard Factory channel. I'd love to get the audience opinion for those listening. What times would work best for you? Also, leave that comment below, as I am planning on doing it on Saturdays around lunchtime, and I am in Central Time. So around this time, maybe a little bit earlier. That is what I'm thinking currently. So let me know down below does that work for you, or suggest another time, and let me kind of get a poll for what people are wanting. So that is that. Again, go follow me on social media. All my links are in my bio or in the description box below, depending on what platform you're on. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for engaging, liking, commenting, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. Make sure that you hit that bell. It's very important, because the freedom content is not favored by the algorithm. So that's one way to kind of make sure that you're going to get this stuff and get notified when I'm posting. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this was valuable to you. Do share it with a friend. Again, that playlist is below if you want to go back and start from the beginning and go through. This is going to be a 10-part series, so I'll be doing part 5 next, probably in the next couple of weeks or so. So that's all I have for you. Thank you very much. Logan Hart signing off. Until next time, be empowered, inspired, and encouraged.